Yo, what's good everybody? It's Guy and Kicks here with another review, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a very special sneaker, and I'm so happy to have in the collection because today we're going to be talking about the Nike Air Force 1 Puerto Rico edition, aka Puerto Rican Day. So with that being said, let me show you guys a first look. So here we have them, guys, the Nike Air Force 1 Puerto Rico edition in this really nice sky blue colorway. These officially dropped on June 4, 2022 for a retail price of $120, but then there was also a multi-color colorway that didn't drop through the sneakers app, I believe, because I didn't see it there, but Nike did list all the stores that colorway was going to be available for you to buy. Most of the stores were like local retailers, a lot from New York City, so if you had a chance to cop those, I'm sure those were more limited than these. These, of course, I took an L this year, but I was able to cop these through Kith. They had a restock, I believe it was late last week, and I was able to pick them up. In case you guys didn't know or couldn't tell already, I am Puerto Rican. I am born in Jersey, but I did live in Puerto Rico from age 7 to 13. Both my parents born and raised in Puerto Rico. I have a ton of family still in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico means a whole lot to me. It's my second home. Love Puerto Rico to death, and it's so cool to be able to have a cool brand like Nike to still work with Puerto Rico and have special edition sneakers representing Puerto Rico, representing the culture and everything like that. So it's such an honor. It's so cool that they do that, and they've been pretty much been doing that every year since 2000. You know, New York City, the Puerto Rican Day Parade is such a big deal. They pretty much get close to 1 million or even over 1 million people each year. You know, they haven't had the parade in the last 2 years because of the pandemic, but this year in 2022 was a huge success, and it was great to see my people out there celebrating not only Puerto Ricans, but you know, people from New York, other cultures, other ethnicity, celebrating Puerto Rico because it's such, you know, beautiful thing. So going back to the 2000 when the first Nike Puerto Rico dropped, which was an Air Force 1, you know, Puerto Ricans have always been involved in the sneaker community. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans that are big fans of sneakers, so having the Air Force 1, which is a big staple, you know, New York City sneaker, aka known uptown, connected with Puerto Ricans in New York City, Puerto Rican Day Parade, it was just a perfect match. However, Nike has not just used the Air Force 1, they've used the Air Max 1 before, Air Trainer 1, and last year they used the Air Max 97. This year they went back to the Air Force 1 to pay homage to the OG Air Force 1 that dropped years ago. In this year's edition, you're gonna be presented with this really cool custom box. Obviously with Nike, you have the classic orange and white box. Here they switch things up with a mostly sky blue color. When you open the box behind the lid, you're gonna find the word Familia again in a bigger print. And then you're gonna have this really awesome tissue paper here because this edition was heavily inspired by Domino's as well. You know, Domino's in Puerto Rico is a big thing. It's like a, you know, typical pastime in Puerto Rico, but it's not just Puerto Rico only. A lot of islands in the Caribbean also, you know, play Domino's as well. You know, Dominicans, Cubans, you know, Haitians as well. So Domino's is not just a Puerto Rico thing. It's a big Caribbean thing in general. In terms of the colorway used here on these Air Force 1s, the base color here is obviously that white leather that you'll see throughout the upper of the shoe. And then the swoosh on both lateral and medial side, and then around the heel part of the shoe, it switches over to that sky blue color. That color is supposed to be a representation of one of the iterations of the colors of the Puerto Rican flag. You know, we're accustomed to seeing the triangle on the Puerto Rican flag in that darker navy color, which I believe it is the official color. You know, I haven't had a Puerto Rican history lesson in a while, so don't quote me on that. But the lighter blue color you'll find a lot of times with the independent movement. You also find a little bit of red on the tag on the front of the tongue where you see that Nike Air as well. Behind the tongue, it actually says built with pure craftsmanship and quality detail for the highest level of style. So Nike really wanted to make a point there that the quality here is really, really good. We'll get into that later. And then on the outsole, it goes back to that dark navy color. So it's almost like they paid homage to both flags, that darker navy flag, and then also the flag with the sky blue color. When it comes to the materials and details on the inside of the shoe, the sock lining is actually made out of leather, which is actually a nice touch. Definitely high quality here for sure. The insoles on these are actually pretty cool because they do have, you know, a lot of sayings that Puerto Ricans say, like, you know, mi gente, pa'lante, you know, things like that. Hijo de Borinquen, a whole bunch of things here which is a cool detail there for sure. The upper here is primarily constructed out of this really nice white premium leather that you find throughout the upper of the shoe, and then the swoosh on both lateral and medial side, and again that heel part of the shoe are made out of this pretty nice nubuck material here from Nike. So nice touch here. These materials actually feel pretty premium. These only come with one pair of laces and are these white laces that come stock with the shoes. The tongue on these are also made out of leather, which is a nice touch, and you'll see a lot of perforation throughout the upper of the shoe, including the tongue, that you normally won't see on a regular Air Force One. And that's again to pay homage to, you know, playing dominoes in Puerto Rico, because that is such a big pastime there. And then as you come down to the toe box, you'll find a lace clip that on the right shoe, it is a domino, is a double two or doble do, and then on the left one, you'll find the Puerto Rico name on there. And then finally on the outsole, you have that navy blue rubber outsole with the Nike logo in the center. When it comes to sizing with an Air Force One, guys, I haven't bought an Air Force One since probably high school. So getting an Air Force One in hand and actually smelling it, it definitely reminded me of those good old days in high school where I would buy multiple pair of white Air Force Ones, because at that time they would sell out so quickly and you had to pretty much keep one on ice because you didn't know when they were going to drop again. So I haven't really bought Air Forces since then, but finally having one in hand, I went true to size, and I would say I can probably squeeze in a 9.5, but I feel comfortable with the size 10, just a little bit of extra room. Definitely don't want my toes to feel too snug. So for me, going true to size was the way to go. When it comes to comfort with an Air Force One, in general, from what I remember in the good old days, I haven't really worn these a lot. Obviously, they're still pretty fresh. But the good old days, I mean, they were pretty comfortable. They're not too mushy. They're more on the firmer side. These actually feel like the padding on these, the insoles, do feel a little bit thicker maybe than before. So I would say that for, you know, casual wear, these will be fine. All right, guys, so my final thoughts on these Nike Air Force One. I would say that, you know, again, it's an honor. It's such a great thing that Nike continues to drop a pair of, you know, Nike's Puerto Rico edition pretty much every year around the Puerto Rican Day Parade. It's such a cool thing to have. It's really cool to have representation from a huge sneaker brand, you know, acknowledging, you know, Puerto Ricans' contribution to the sneaker community and just the community in general. So that's a very dope thing from Nike, and I hope that they continue doing that for a very, very long time. I know they got in a little bit of trouble, not last year, the year before. They had to cancel the drop that they had that year for 2020 because there was some controversy with the flag that they had on those Air Force Ones, I believe it was. I believe the issue was that the flag was, you know, it looked like it was backwards or something like that. So they had us cancel that one. So then last year they did drop a Puerto Rico edition sneaker, which was the Air Max 97, even though there was no Puerto Rican Day Parade. But this year they came back with a banger, I think, in general, and they really did a good job here. And then the materials here in general feel very premium. The unboxing experience is pretty cool, and I do like the details that they added here. Like I mentioned earlier, there was that multicolored colorway edition that dropped in more of the local retailer stores. You know, that sneaker can be argued that it's a little bit more of thinking outside the box from Nike, because one of my complaints from the previous generation of the Nike and Puerto Rico edition was that they were always like the same thing. You slap a flag on it, you make them white, red, and blue, you put the coquille on it, huepa on it, blah, 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 and it was like the same thing over and over. I think that Nike, you know, I'm sure they work with Puerto Ricans that can give them ideas, but they kind of have to, you know, think outside the box. You know, think like when they do, you know, dunk collaborations, and they let those collaborators really go in and add many details and even different materials and things like that. They have to do that here with Puerto Rico, because there's so many beautiful things about the Puerto Rican culture, about the island, about our people, that they can really implement on these and really go at it and just make a crazy shoe, a super dope shoe that is not your usual, you know, Puerto Rico coquille flag, red colored, blue colored, blah, blah, blah. Like, they have to add more stuff to these, because that way these shoes will even be more special, and I think they could really do really dope things, and they start thinking outside the box and use other things from our culture, because there's so many to talk about. So with that being said, let me lace these up and show you guys how they look on feet. Alright guys, so that's it for me. Hopefully this video brought you a detailed look of the Nike Air Force 1 Puerto Rico edition in that sky blue colorway. Let me know in the comments below if you prefer this colorway because it's more of a cleaner colorway, easier to wear, or you like that multi-color colorway that also symbolizes like El Viejo San Juan and a lot of the, you know, the colors that they use in the houses over there. Let me know which one do you prefer, and also let me know if you want me to make a review on those Nike Air Max 97s from last year. I'll be happy to do that as well. And like always guys, thank you so much for stopping by. To all those that are new to the channel, if you like the video, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit that like button as well. I'll leave a link to my Instagram page below where you guys can go check it out. Check out my photos, check out stories that I share, information about restocks or shock drops, whatever. Definitely stop by and check that out as well. And that's it guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.